everybody. Today's video, I wanted to do a sort of beginner's startup into learning Krita. I've been tinkering around with it for a little while now. My first experience with Krita was actually years ago, but I never quite learned all the tools and stuff. I just treated it the same way as if I was drawing on regular canvas or regular piece of paper, like traditional art. I really didn't utilize any of these tools you see here, or even the layers. I really didn't know how to use them to my advantage. So anyway, I've gotten back into it. I've been getting more into digital art recently, and so I wanted to do a quick little tutorial, easy video on anyone who's interested in learning Krita. Kind of just a completely beginner friendly follow along and learning some of the tools. So to get started, you'll see over here this plus sign and there's a little down arrow. If you click that, you'll see all the different layers that you can add. Krita usually automatically loads in with a white background layer that's locked. You can go ahead and unlock it and delete it if you don't want that. But we're just gonna leave it for now. But as you can see, there's paint layer, group layer, clone layer, vectors, filters, all sorts. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a vector layer. The reason I'm doing this and not just going right in with my paint layer is because with vector tools, which are these shapes you'll see up here, they create points in which you can very easily adjust what you're drawing, whereas with the paint layer, it's a lot more difficult to adjust those lines. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and switch my color to a dark green. Go into my tool options here and you'll see I'm gonna go ahead and just click this shape right here. This is not going to have a set in stone shape. This is all points that you can customize. If you want, you could do a circle. It's a circle. The square, rectangle. This one allows you to sort of freehand where you want your points to be. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click this one, and under my tool options, you'll see here there's fill and outline, and I just want to have an outline, so I'm going to click not filled. The outline, you can customize which colors you want it to be set to. I'm just going to have it set to the brush color, and I'm going to have it as this dark green. To get started, we're going to be doing a cute little frog. Nothing too complicated, and you'll see exactly why I ended up choosing a vector layer for this. So I'm taking this freeform tool and I'm going to just sort of place points all around about how I want my frog to be shaped. This is going to look whack. You are going to be like, girl, why am I listening to you? But you'll see. So super rough. That honestly does not look like a frog. That looks like a bear. But if you click this tool right here, this arrow with 3 dots, and then click on your shape, you'll see all these points where you placed each one. Now what you can do with these points is you can adjust them. So this is the benefit to working with a vector layer first, especially if you're doing more simplistic kind of characters and stuff like that. Or really defined line art, for example, like a children's illustration. But even then, you'll see, okay, well, I can adjust these points, but they're all very pointed. If you right click on the point, which I have a shortcut setting in my pen, so if I just click the button on my pen, it right clicks and I have these options. And if I click smooth point, it creates a curve. And this will adjust how far out I want that curve to go. So I'm just going to go through and kind of adjust, utilizing the vector tools to really fine-tune your lines is so much easier than I don't know, I kind of struggle with getting my lines how I want them to be on the first go, and then I end up redrawing the same line 20 times, and I just keep undoing it because I don't like how it turns out. But using the vector tools allows you to make some adjustments, go back, and really fine-tune your work. So I think I'm done playing around with that. Now, if you just click this arrow, you can click out of it. There's that, or you can click it and adjust how big you want it, if you want it skinnier, what have you. So I like to work in multiple layers and sort of keep them separate, so that way if I go back later and decide I don't like something or want to change something, it'll be really easy to go back and change it. So what we're going to do now is I want to fill in this inside, but there's multiple ways to do that. So I'm just going to show you one of the ways. So once you decide you're done with the shape or your line work or whatever, you can once again right click on this vector layer and you can go down to convert to paint layer. I want to do the eyes, and this is just a paint layer, so I'm not going to be able to adjust too much. And I want to add a little white highlight. You can take your blurring tool and kind of smudge that a little bit. So let's say I like how that looks and I want to duplicate that. So if I right click this paint layer of the eye, I can duplicate that, press this button here, or this one as well. This will allow you to move your layer. I personally like to use this one. I really don't have a reason, I just like it. And you can adjust the size as well. So back to what I was saying about filling it in. There's multiple ways to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tool right here. This is a selection tool, and this tool automatically selects you know, what it detects. So on this layer is just of the outline. So when I select it, it's going to select everything within that outline. I'm going to click the plus sign to add a new layer. The selection tool is still within that outline. So I'm going to click my paintbrush and I'm going to make my green a little bit more yellowy, and you can use your paint bucket tool for this. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add another layer, because like I said, for me personally, I just like to split up my layers. That way it's super easy for me to go back and adjust things if I decide I want to. A really cool tool to use is this tool right here. It's a square with light on one side and like transparent on the other. This is your gradient tool. So with this, you can click it, pick which color you want. I'm going to go back with a dark green, and if I drag it going upward from the bottom going up, it's going to create a gradient of that color I just picked from the bottom going up. What you can also do to create like a pretty cool effect is you could use it to help highlight things. So I'm going to take like this yellow, and if I drag it, you know, from the top down, it makes the top highlighted. If I want it to be more like diagonal, creates that highlighted. So this tool right here just makes it super quick and easy to do any type of gradients. So there's that, and that's on its own layer. The tool is still selected the outline, so everything that I'm doing is going to be within the outline. What you can also do is use the airbrush tool right here. I like to when I do this, I like to turn down the opacity and make the brush size fairly big. And you can kind of really fine tune where you want those shadows to be. I'm just going to go in and kind of slightly paint on some highlights, some shadows, all of that. This looks weird as hell, but we will keep going. Now I'm just going to click my selection tool. When I want to click out of it and like deselect, I just like click whatever random one and just tap anywhere on the paper really quick, and it deselects. So I'm going to go ahead and use this dropper tool right here to color match. I'm color matching that dark green, and I'm going to do another vector layer so that way I can adjust. So on this vector layer, I'm going to do the belly area. Again, this should just be the outline. It should not be filled. Okay, that's a little bit small. So another good thing about using vector layers is if you did this with a paint layer, you wouldn't really be able to go back and adjust, at least not to my knowledge. I don't know the program super well, but just from my little bit of experience using it. When you use the vector layers, you can just go into your tool options once you select, your vector layer that you just did. Go into your tool options, click this line because we just did a line, we didn't fill it. This bucket would fill, so if I wanted to fill it, I could. But for now, I'm going to keep that blank. And the line, you can change the color if you decide. You can also scroll down and change the width of the line. So if you do it and you decide it's way too thin, like I just showed you, it's actually a very simple fix. So I'm going to go back and adjust these points and just make sure it lines up well with what we already have. So there we have that. And I think I am going to fill it. So using this pointer tool, clicking on the vector layer, going into tool options and fill. And this is the X, which means no fill. This is the solid color fill. And then if you see this right here, this gradient, it's obviously a gradient. So if you scroll down, you'll see the preset of which colors it automatically will preset to. As you can probably assume, those are adjustable. So if I wanted this white color to be a yellow, let's say, I'll just click this dot, this little pop-up comes up, and I'll just kind of adjust. Ooh, it's kind of cute. I like the yellow. And this line diagonal going down shows the angle of the gradient. So if I wanted to change that, I'll hover over it till it looks like I have a hand, click it, I can drag it and pull it and change the way the gradient is going. So I'm going to change this gray to kind of like how that looks. So when you zoom out, you'll see this, and I actually decide I kind of want this to look more rounded. So once again, the benefit of using vectors is that you can adjust so easily. If you want, I will go ahead and add some shadow just because this is so dark over here and this right here really isn't, so it looks a little bit off. So adding another layer, going onto the vector layer, selecting it, going into a different layer, paint tool, on my airbrush, I'll go ahead and use the color dropper to color match, and I'm just going to sort of tap that in, just ever so slightly along the edges. I want to do a little face, again doing a vector layer just because it's a lot easier to adjust. Alright, so we've got that. Clicking the three dots and watch, boom, I can make a little smiley face. Super cute, super easy. And then I can go ahead and adjust the size. I want to convert this into a paint layer because if you see, I don't really like this sharp like edge. So what I'm going to do is take my airbrush tool, and you see this right here, it sets as eraser mode. I'm going to put the opacity at 100 because I want it to erase everything. I'm just going to lightly sort of erase the edges. Honestly, I kind of don't like the blur on the eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover that up and redo it. How I'm going to do this is I'm just going to color match, just black, go into my circle tool, and I'm just going to go over. And I'm going to just do some whites of the eye that, oops, that aren't so blurred. Is that cute? I think that's cute. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate that, press, this little frame looking thing, and drag it over. You also might have noticed what I just did. I was testing to see how I like something. These like eyeball looking shapes next to your layers will temporarily turn off a layer or turn it on. So if you want to see how something looks and then kind of compare, turn it on and off, decide what you like the best, you can easily do that. I'm going to do a pink for the cheeks. I think that'll be so cute. Alright, well, what we're going to do is just do a little cheek. Again, you can adjust the size of a paint layer with the same like frame tool, but what you can't do, at least not to my knowledge, I'm not sure how to do it, if it's possible or not, but I'm not sure if you could like go back and like specifically adjust certain lines and stuff like that like you could with a vector layer. If you see these tools over here, these are blenders and this little like cotton swab looking tool, and I'm going to go around the edges because I want this to be kind of blurred, just like that. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that. It kind of looks a little funny, but this is just for demo purposes, okay? This is not my best work, I promise. So I'm going to add some hands. The dockers up top give you a lot of different information, but mostly what you're probably going to be utilizing the most is the opacity, the size, and this little eraser button. And this eraser button will turn any brush into an eraser, which can be convenient depending on what you use it for and stuff like that. I'm going to color match the green, go to my paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint on some arms. There are the arms so far. I'm going to go ahead and draw an outline. Also, another tip, if you've found like doing line work is a little bit tedious and hard to get a smooth line, here are the settings that I have my tool set on. I have the delay turned off, I have it set to stabilizer, and I have sample count to 272. So basically when I'm drawing where my pen actually is, there's not a huge delay, but there is a little bit of a space there, and it helps to allow me to get more smooth, clean lines than when I first started. So if that is something you're struggling with, those are the settings I currently have, and I've been happy with it. I also, like in the past before I had it set to that, I had it on the delay, and that helped a little bit, but it wasn't like the greatest. But so far, just having the delay turned off and having the sample count set to like 200, mine set to 272, no particular reason. I've just found that this helps a little bit more than just having the delay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to scroll down all the way down through all my layers and go behind everything, and I'm going to do their little feet. Because it's obviously behind all the layers, we went back and put it under. You're not gonna see like all this, so it doesn't quite matter as much. So I like how that looks. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in just with the like base tone of this like random green in the middle, and on a fresh layer doing some gradients. I'm just doing that with the airbrush right now. I don't really want to fiddle around with this. This doesn't get too specific. This gradation tool I showed you earlier, it pretty much just does like one straight across like gradient, and I want something a little bit more nuanced, so I'm just taking my airbrush tool. So there is that. So cute. I'm going to go ahead and add some spots. This is turning into the longest tutorial ever, and I'm going to just do like that. Okay, so now that we've got the frog pretty much looking how I wanted it to, I went ahead and adjusted the mouth a little bit. I went all the way to the bottom and I'm going to add a vector layer once more. Me and my vector layers. Going to go to my color selector, go to red. Okay, there's our mushroom. No, once again, you know the drill. I'm going to smooth this point. Smooth all the points, pretty much. I filled in the color with that same red, but I want the outline to be a little bit darker. That's perfect. So now, freeform tool, you know the drill. Get my base points on there, and smooth. Okay, and tool options, or click my pointer tool, fill, click this color. I don't want the fill to be red. I want it to be like a light pale color like that. I'm going to, on a new layer, just create some dots. See, that's just like pretty cool of Krita. I feel like once you like learn how to utilize the tools, you can really like make it work for you. It is a little bit of a learning curve. I'm not a pro with it. I'm going to add some like really light lines going down. I'm going to put on a paint layer with my airbrush, opacity down a little bit. I'm going to color match and then darken it. Do some little mushroom lines. I am going to turn the opacity down just a little bit on this layer that we just did, so that will make those lines a little lighter. Let's do some shading. Okay, there's that. Now add some shading to the polka dots. Go onto the layer with the polka dots, use the selection tool, and holding down shift key, I can very quickly grab all of them. Now on a new layer, I'm just going to get the color I want and just doing just a little bit of shading, nothing too crazy, but there is that. I am going to put everything in a group. The main reason for this is because I want to be able to adjust the entire image in terms of like size. I just want it to be a little bit smaller on the page. The only other way I can think of going about that would be is if you flatten the image, which I personally would not recommend just because you lose your layers when you flatten your image. So a way to be able to move your image as if it was a flattened image without actually flattening it is to make a group. So now everything is in one big giant group. So now instead of like having to flatten the image, I can click on group 37. Could name that whatever. Click the frame. This part just can move it. The frame can scale it down. And I want to add a background image. I like this one. What you can very quickly and easily do is right tap. You can then copy the image, go back into Krita, and if I click edit up here at the top and I go down to paste, this thing is going to pop up asking you how you want to paste it, but I'm going to just drag it to make it big and fill the screen. I'm just going to lightly sort of tap around, a little less defined, but I don't want it to be a complete like just blur. You could also, in one of the texture brushes, there's also like a grass stamp, which I think is pretty neat, just for like quickly rendering what looks like grass. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly just add a little bit of shadow to our little guy. Again, I'm completely under the group with our frog, so this is not, if I tried, this is not going to color on top of him. I also kind of want, you know what, I feel like there's just too much green that he doesn't really stand out. Just to kind of differentiate Maybe a little bit of orange even. I also think some blue over in the shadowy area would be good as well. And again, just turning that opacity down and kind of erasing it where I don't want it to be. Also, another little trick that I've seen some people do is they take like a slightly deeper tone, not too much deeper, but they go over the entire drawing, and then with the eraser they just go in and like carve out areas where you really want the lighting to hit, which I think is it's such a neat way to do like really quick like lighting effects. Here is the final product of just the little demo we did today. I hope you followed along and enjoyed and learned a few tips and tricks. Sorry if this wasn't as organized as it probably should have been. You know, sometimes little mistakes happen and can make following along a bit more confusing. Honestly, the possibilities are pretty much endless. So this is certainly something that I've been really throwing myself into, and I'll definitely be making a few more tutorials. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.